Hi, if you've got a VTX 1800 and you've got a problem with it that after you shut it off it continues to run, keeps trying to start the starter motor and it keeps going over and over again and won't shut off, eventually it drains your battery and you're in trouble wherever you are. Well, the problem with that is it's the starter solenoid or starter relay, both the same thing, commonly called either one, but I'll use the term starter solenoid for the purpose of this. And that needs to be replaced. What happens is it gets stuck, and if you're lucky, sometimes you can just tap on it and it'll release it and get you where you're going. And sometimes it won't release, and then you get a problem because it'll just continue grinding away until your battery is dead. Let me show you what to do in this particular situation. This is the VTX 1800, and the starter solenoid is located right behind this panel right here. Very simply, just pull it off. Once that's off, you can see the solenoid. This piece right here is the solenoid. Now sometimes you can just tap it like that, or maybe with a hammer. Just gently tap it with a hammer, and that will disengage it, and you'll be okay for a short period of time. Recommended to change it, but at least you can get where you're going and maybe get home. So now, let me show you how to replace the solenoid. I'm going to take off the seat, which I have in another video of how to remove the seat. So right now it's all been disassembled, so I can just pick it up and take it off. At this point, I've now exposed my battery covers and everything. To remove the cover from the battery, that's this cover right here, there's a little clip on either side. Just pull the clip back gently, and you can lift this piece up and over. Once you've exposed that, you'll have another little plastic panel. And right up here, you're going to have to push this out of your way a little bit. And there is a Phillips screw that holds that panel in place. So you're going to unscrew that screw. And then you're going to lift the panel out. Now, the one problem is when you go to lift the panel out, the wires are still in the way. So you've got to give them a little bit of a push. Get them out of the way and get that panel up. There's also two more screws, one on either side here on that panel. So I've got the front one out, and now I'm going to take off the two back screws. Okay, and now that I have them out, I am going to lift the panel out like so. Panel is out. 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, in like this, 1, 2, 3. Now my battery is exposed. I can see the top of it. This is my main line, which will eventually go down into the solenoid. Okay, and I am going to take off this red cover. You can see me moving it around a little bit right there, exposing this terminal. And I'm going to disconnect the red terminal. As you can see, I now have it free. So I'm now safe to play with the solenoid. Next, I have to disconnect this from the solenoid. So I'm going to open up this, and you can see that there's a nut there. And on this side is a nut also, and these two wires which I'm going to pull out. There's one. And there's the other. To remove the two nuts, I'm going to use a 10mm wrench. Okay, now I have both sides removed, the black, and can be read. And here's our solenoid, which lastly is just bolted into the frame here and here. There's 2 screws there, 2 bolts I should say. The particular bolts that hold it to the frame are 10 millimeter. So I'm going to put a 10 millimeter socket, take off this top one. And we're going to remove this second bolt and free up our solenoid. And now our solenoid is out. This will be my 3rd time replacing this particular one. I need a different type of solenoid, and what has been recommended to me that says that's supposed to work very well is you buy a lawnmower, a ride-on lawnmower solenoid, as opposed to the original one that goes in here. However, when you do that, you're going to have to make some small modifications because it's not going to fit exactly the same way. So let's take a look at how to install the lawnmower type solenoid. A solenoid is a solenoid. It's going to do the same thing, whether it starts for a lawnmower or whether it starts your motorcycle. The recommended one that I found is a Stearns, and I got that at Amazon, and I'll show you exactly which one it is in a minute. So let me just open the box and show you this solenoid. You can see it's bigger, it's heavier, a much better built solenoid. You can see the difference between the 2 of them. So whatever modifications we're going to have to make, we're going to do that right now. Now let me just see if our bracket size is the same. The bracket holes match up, so we don't have to modify the bracket. What we do have to modify is these 2 connectors, which go down, connect to a flat. As opposed to on the original solenoid, it's round. So this goes into a round one, and now it has to go into a flat. So what I'm going to have to do is cut these off and change this to a flat receiver. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to mount the new solenoid back to its bracket. So there's the bracket back there, and I'm just going to place it in. And then I have the 2 screws to mount it back into place. I've put the solenoid back into place. I pushed a screw in without the socket on. It's a little easier just to get them started like so. Tightening it up. And I will tighten up the other side. Move the wires around a little bit. And tighten it up. And now put a socket on that and tighten it a little bit tighter. Okay, now that solenoid is in place, and next we have to connect the wires. To connect the wire back to the terminal, the hole is too small, so I'm going to have to drill it out because this terminal is larger than the terminal on the old solenoid. So to do that, I will simply hold the bracket very firmly and take the appropriate side bit just a little bit larger than the terminal, and I will drill that through. Okay, I partially drilled it earlier to make it easy, so you may take you a little bit longer to drill than that. Once that's done, you have to do that on both sides. This one, which I've already done and completed it. I will now put this on the terminal. I will then put my lock washer and then the nut. And tighten that down. And then I will use an 11 millimeter complete it. Now there might have been a little tab on yours, on your wire end, and you might have to just snip that off for this to fit back, and I'll replace the cover back on them all done. So I have to replace the two terminal heads on these to the flat stab-on type. So very carefully I'm going to cut them off as close to the stab-on as I now have. And there's not a lot of extra wire here to fool around with to make this reach. It just reaches. We can probably push this down once we put this all back together up here. So I got to very carefully strip the wires off both this. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a knife. If you have one of the fancy wire strippers and you adjust it to the proper size, you can do that. So I'm going to take off about a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to easily go around it slowly. I've got about a 1/2 inch removed on that one. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the green one. Okay, so I have those all ready to receive the new stab-on flats. Now you can see I stripped my two wires, the green and the yellow. And here I have the blades, which are covered in a plastic, and they heat shrink. So if I heat them up, it will shrink around the wire and make it waterproof. So I'm going to attach those by simply taking the wire, and there's a blade side and there's a receiving wire side. Easy to tell the difference, you'll know it right away. And I'm going to put this into the wire receiving side. And once I get it in, this is a crimping tool. This won't cut the wire. You can try it with needle nose and things like that, but you won't get it tight enough. If you use a crimping tool, that will squeeze very tight around the wire. And now it's on and secure. And I will do the same thing with the second one. Give them a little tug just to make sure they're right. Don't tug too hard. Now if you want, you can apply a heat gun to them and shrink wrap those up. So when installing these, you're just going to push them down onto this, stab them right down. The green one goes to the front of the motorcycle. And the red one, red and yellow, goes to the back. Make sure you push them down securely, like so. Now that I'm done, I was charging my battery while I had the battery open. And that's coming along, but I'm going to take it off right now. Okay, the battery charger is disconnected. And so next I have to put back my cable to the battery, which we disconnected earlier. So I'll place my wires back to the battery and put in the screw that I removed. Yeah, I will secure that back down. Place my rubber gasket back in place. Okay, it should be ready to start. Turn the key on, sounds good. All right, let me just get to the other side of the bike. Turn the key on. That's right up. And that should pretty much solve our problem. Now we just got to put back our pieces here, which is this plate with the 3 screws. Fold this back over, drop on our seat, put our cover back on, which just goes into these 3 holes with the little pins. You probably know that. Take that off, slide it right back on. And that's how you replace the solenoid. And I will show you the exact solenoid that I got from Amazon. And also, this might be convenient for you. I have a kit here that I bought from Amazon with all kinds of wire adapters. That's what I used for this. And it's the Q-Jet 320-piece kit, which gives me a selection for all different wires on my motorcycle, my car, etc., etc. I'm going to give a little heat shrink to those wires that I put in. I just take a small flame lighter, like this. Gives a very small flame. I'm very gently going to heat just around those wires a little bit. Stay back a little bit. You don't want to burn the wire. Okay, now I don't know if you can see it, but those shrunk very tight around the wires, which will also help the wire from trying to slide out. Just a note, if your solenoid does give you a little bit of trouble while you're on the road and your bike breaks down, watch my video on how to jump start your motorcycle. This video will tell you what to do with the solenoid at emergency action, and if your battery runs dead, what to do in that particular scenario. Enjoy your bike and happy riding!